Hey guys, it's Mitch here, and today I'm gonna tell you about my first boyfriend. Yay! First boyfriend! Happiness! Actually, it was a pretty dark, depressing story which sent me into this downward depression spiraling downward. But it's part of my story and it makes me who I am today, so it can have a positive spin on it, I guess. So that's why I'm sharing it with all of you. So, let's get started. So it was the summer after my sophomore year of college, and I had just gotten home for the summer, and I really didn't have anything planned that summer. Like, I didn't really have a lot of friends, I didn't know what to do, I really wasn't sure of my direction in life, where I was going to go to college the next year, because it just wasn't working out for me where I was at the time. And so, I was starting to come to terms with who I was in terms of my sexuality, a little more comfortable in my own skin, but every guy I'd been with at that point had never felt right. It had always just been like a one-night stand or something. It was with a lot of guys who I guess weren't what you would want in a guy. And I guess my self-esteem and self-worth was so low that I was willing to kind of just take whatever I could get. Like, I had zero standard. I was just like, okay, well, let's go hang out, do something. And I'd been doing this thing with this one guy for a little while, and he was nice, but he was living in his mom's basement, wasn't working, smoked weed all the time. He thought he was going to be the next great rapper, even though he was white. Yeah. But I was just like, you know, whatever, he's nice, so I'll be with him for a while, I guess. And it was this one Friday night, and he made me go home for some reason, because he didn't want his roommates to meet me, and I was like, okay, whatever. And I was super bored. Like, I had nothing to do, and so I was literally on Facebook and Grindr just looking for someone to talk to. Wasn't looking for anything sexual, just someone to talk to, because I was so bored. So I was going through a Grindr, and I found this kid, and he really wasn't that attractive, and I was just like, whatever, I'm so bored, I'll just message him anyway, I hope he messaged back. And then I found this guy who was like really, really attractive, and I was like, ooh, I'm gonna message you, I hope he messages back. And then I got a message, I was like, oh my gosh, and it was this other little kid, and I was like, okay, fine, I guess I'll talk to you, I'm bored. And we got to talking, and we actually found out we had a lot of mutual friends, and we had a lot of things in common, and like things in common that like a lot of people don't have in common. Like, we were both in track, but we did cross country even though we were like short sprinters, and we both had like the same interests, and we both like the same type of music and hobbies and stuff. Like, the way I would describe it is, it was literally like looking at a younger version of myself. Honestly. The younger version of myself that I wished I was if things hadn't been so bad for me in high school. Like, it was just awesome. And so we started texting, then we started talking to each other on the phone, and then we started falling in love, and it was the cutest thing. And this all happened in the span of like 4 days, by the way. So we decided, oh, we gotta hang out. And so we decided to hang out the following Friday. And that whole week in between, we were like texting each other and just being all lovey-dovey and this and that, and it was the cutest thing ever. And so that Friday, we finally met. He lived up north and I lived down in the cities, so it was about like a half an hour in between each way, and we didn't want to drive one place or the other, even though we ended up doing that anyway. So we met in the middle at a Target. We just kind of talked for a while, and then he showed me where he used to live, drove me around his neighborhoods. We went into Target, just kind of walked around, we went out for breakfast. Like, we really didn't do much that day, but we had a great time with each other. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Then he took me to this beauty pageant thing, and at first I was kind of like, ugh, what am I doing here? Good Lord. And by the end, I was just like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. It wasn't like a real beauty pageant, it was like this, it was like to bring awareness to the community and for charity and stuff. It was these high school girls would, compete for to be like the next ambassador. I mean, it was weird, but it was awesome, and his best friend won, and I was so happy, and oh my goodness, it was just amazing. And after that, we went to Walmart and we got the movie Warm Bodies to watch, and we watched that movie, and it was like, okay, but I enjoyed it because I was with him. And then we spent the night together, and it was just so amazing. And then the next morning, he had like an emergency, so he had to drive me home. And that whole day I was just like, oh my gosh, I love you so much, and this and that and whatnot, and I was just, whatever. I was like, I'm gonna sing you a love song, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna marry you someday. I mean, when we were driving through the countryside and stuff, it was literally like, if we ever get married, we're gonna buy that house. And like, I didn't even think, Mitch, you're being crazy right now, but it's whatever. And we were like working everything out. Like we talked about everything, literally. Like I literally thought we were gonna get married. I asked him, you know, I go to school like 2 hours away from you in the school year. Is that gonna be okay? And he's like, oh, distance isn't bad, you know. Distance makes the heart grow fonder, and it makes us appreciate the time we have together, and we won't take each other for granted. So I'm like, okay, I can work for it. You just gotta come visit me sometime. After he dropped me off, things got a little bit weird for me. He didn't text as much. And he didn't respond to my text as much, and I was kind of thinking, oh, you know, maybe he's busy, maybe there's just stuff going on, whatever, I'm not going to read too much into it. A few days later, I went to get my tattoo, and I sent him a picture of it. I was like, oh my gosh, look what I just got, and he's like, well, that's great, but I have something to tell you. And I was like, what? And he's like, I'm moving 3 states away.
Boy, have you lost the best of your mind? We supposed to get married. We supposed to live in the big house in the countryside. We supposed to have a bunch of cheering. I don't know what you be thinking, but there is no way you is moving 3 states away.
But on the outside, I was a little more like this.
Oh my gosh, I can't do it. I can't live without you. I love you so much. Why was happening to me?
I'm kind of an emotional person. I was a mess. I just freaked. I didn't know what to do. It was awful, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, are we breaking up? What's happening? And he was like, well, distance sucks, and I don't know if I can do it. And that should have been a red flag to me right there, because he was the one earlier who had said distance does not matter. But at the same time, it is 3 states away, so maybe there is a difference. I wasn't in the right state of mind anyway, because I was so crying and emotional about it that I wasn't thinking straight. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna always love you, and I'll always be here for you, and maybe someday it'll work out. And he's like, oh my gosh, I love you too, and I'm always just a phone call or text away, and this and that. And that was that. He said he was moving in a week, and the week it was near the 4th of July, and I was like, okay, whatever, this and that. And that was really the last time we ever talked. So for the whole week before he moved, I was listening to Big Girls Don't Cry and When You're Gone by Avril Lavigne, and basically eating ice cream and being sappy and sitting in bed watching Netflix all the time. That's all I did. But then I started to become a little more accustomed to it, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to be happy for him. We love each other. This is going to work. And then, the day he moved, he posted this cryptic status saying, here we go, starting over. And I was like, oh my gosh, babe, you're going to do so well, and everything's going to work out. Well, the next day, then, I find out he unfriended me on Facebook. And then I started to get a little bit suspicious. I was like, okay, now something's going on. A lot of my friends just told me, you know, maybe he just doesn't want to see your stuff right now. It's too emotional for him. He's got a lot going on. He's moving. I was like, you know what? Okay, that makes sense. I can see that. I was thinking, you know what? I'll just approach this later after he's had time to cool off. You know, text him in a month or something. Well, then, he wasn't really responding to anything I ever sent him. And I thought that was just odd. So I was talking to one of his friends one time, and I was like, yeah, I really, really miss him. And she's like, oh, why? Haven't you guys hung out lately? And I was like, no, I thought he moved. And she's like, no. So after that, I was like, okay, now this is weird. So finally, I bucked up the courage, and I sent him this long text message. I was like, you know what? I'm not mad. I'm not holding resentment. I just want to know what happened. I thought everything was perfect, and I feel like I'm owed an explanation. Well, I never got a response to that. And it literally took me 7 months to get over him. Like, the way I finally got over him was I got another boyfriend, which sounds really bad. It wasn't really that bad. I got over him for a few months, and then he popped up and was dating one of my friends. Like, I thought, okay, you're gone, I'm not gonna see you again. But then he pops up, and suddenly we have mutual friends on Facebook, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. And that kind of sent me back into the spiral, and it was kind of like, just whatever. I mean, I'm fine with it now. A little while later, he blocked me on Instagram and Twitter too. Now, I don't know if he thought that I was just too stupid to not realize that he didn't move, or if he realized that I realized that he didn't move, and then was just trying to block me out, you know, make it so this never happened. And that kind of hurts me, because afterwards, everything went back to being exactly the same before he came along. So it was literally like nothing had changed except my experience. It literally felt like a dream. It felt like it was just something that never happened, that I just dreamed up. Because if you look at the outside world now, I have nothing to show from it. There is no evidence that this actually happened except one picture that I took. And it was interesting because we were watching Warm Bodies, the lead character said, "Oh, you should always make sure to take a lot of pictures because you never know when something's going to end and you always want to cherish those memories." And it was interesting because I was kind of foreshadowing something that was going to happen, and at the time I thought that was a great idea, but I thought that we'd have plenty of time to take pictures, so unfortunately I only took one. I guess the hardest part for me in all of this is I never figured out what went wrong. I never knew if it was me, if it was him, you know, it just would have been good to know why this didn't work out. Even if there was no way to repair it, it would have been nice to know if I did something wrong so I could fix that for the next guy that comes along, you know? But I never found that out. And that's what ate me up all the time. If he had said, you know what, I don't like this, or I don't like that, or I can't be with you because of this, it still would have stung. But I would eventually been able to get over it because I had some closure. To this day, I have no closure on anything that happened, and that's kind of what really stings inside for me. He was the first person I ever really loved. Like, not that high school puppy love that everybody thinks they're in. Like, I actually genuinely loved this kid. It was the first time I'd ever felt this way. And it happened so fast, but I couldn't... It happened so fast, but I really believe it was real love. At least it was for me. And the thing that was interesting about him was I never held resentment for him. I never hated him. I was never pissed off. To this day, I still wish the best for him. I still hope he has happiness in his life. I have never once hated him. And I think that's what happens when you really love someone. When you really love somebody, you want their best interests ahead of your own. And that's how I am with him. And to this day, I still hope he's doing fine. If you're watching this video and you know who you are, just know I'm not mad at you. I don't hold resentment for you. I did cherish what time we had together, and I hope everything goes well for you. So yeah, that's my first boyfriend experience, and it's kind of depressing and it's kind of sad, but I mean, it's just an experience. And for me, I fell into a dark depression for a long time over this, and it was hard. And the way I got pulled out was pretty much by getting another boyfriend, but that's really not the way it should be. You should just be able to go on and get over it eventually. With me, I didn't have a lot of friends there to support me. I didn't really have a lot of things to take my mind off of it, so I couldn't really figure out what to do. But for everyone else, just know heartbreak doesn't last forever. It's gonna go away. Better things are gonna come. Everything happens for a reason, and I strongly believe that. Nothing lasts forever. So to sum it all up, in a nutshell, it took me 13 minutes to tell you my first boyfriend faked moving 3 states away as an excuse to break up with me. Classy guy. You should take away from this that it's never a good idea to decide you're in love with someone over a text message. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you some insight on some stuff that, you know, whatever, or maybe you just wanted to listen to me talk, but whatever. I hope you liked it. I hope, whatever. I'm kind of done talking right now. I'm just rambling. Tell me what you thought. Please leave a comment, subscribe. There's gonna be more videos to come, more of my stories, and tell me what you think. You know, I always like insight. If it's constructive criticism, I'll take it. Just don't leave hateful comments, because that's just rude, I think. Okay, bye guys.
Goodbye, my